Hello, everybody. Dr. Connors again with Section 8 of the Stop Fighting Cancer book. And today we're going to talk a little bit about diets. In the book, you'll find what I call eating God's way for cancer, but you need to understand that that is a general diet. So when we have a patient in our office, we test for specific food. So I want to make that very clear. I also want to make it very clear that this entire book is a general look at what are possibilities that you can do for cancer. It is impossible for me to write a protocol and have that published and have everybody fit into that protocol. That's the problem that I see. That's the problem I see with going to an oncologist, is that you fit into their protocol. But it's also a problem I see going to a Mexico cancer clinic. You go to the Gerson clinic, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get the Gerson protocol. Well, what if that protocol isn't right for me? Well, you are fitting your square pegs into round holes, and it doesn't work for everybody. So regardless of what anybody says, one protocol is not going to work for the masses. And I understand the situation. That's what they do. They do chemo, radiation, and surgery, and you have to fit into their round hole, whether you're a square peg or not. So they will hammer you into that hole. Well, it's no different with alternative measures as well. You don't want to take a person and fit them into your protocol. You have to build that protocol around them. So in my training and getting my fellowship in integrative cancer therapy, I learned all the different protocols. So throughout the years, we went out and did a Gerson program. We've done Hoxsey work. We've done all the different alternative works. We've studied different hyperbaric, hyperthermia. That's what I have all these different pieces in my book. However, there is no way in the world that I would suggest even that a cancer patient try to do all these things. It's not even possible. So what we do is we do specific testing in our office to find out what is going to be best for that patient. So even though we use a Rife machine, as I stated in the last section, on everybody, every single person that's walked out of the door with a Rife machine in my office, it's been a different program. So it's very specific to them and their needs. So we try, nothing's perfect, but we try to meet that person's need as specific as possible so that they're taking as least amount of supplements as possible and getting the best bang for their buck across the board for everything. It's the same thing with diet. We want to be as specific as possible. So the diet that you see in this written section is a generality, and it's a good general diet to follow. However, real life in our office, we test all the individual foods. Most of the patients, we go on a gluten-free diet. I'll tell you right off the bat. It's highly inflammatory, and even if the person is not gluten sensitive, and there's multiple tests that you can do for that at home, even if a person is not gluten sensitive, it's still valuable to go gluten free. My opinion, everybody on the planet should go gluten free. It's just a very inflammatory food. It's not the way that your ancestors ate wheat. It just isn't the same food product anymore. It has been altered and destroyed. So don't come back and say, well, they ate wheat in the Bible. Look at Ruth. She picked up wheat in the fields and baked bread with it. I'm sorry, but it was a completely different product. It was not the wheat that we have today. So you're not comparing apples with apples there. It's completely different. So wheat today is just highly inflammatory. It's no good for anything, so you want to stay away from it. And that's gluten in general. So that's wheat, spelt, rye, barley, and malt, and other foods that act like it when you have a damaged gut border. So that's why you become sensitive to foods, and that's why certain foods are bad for you, because they damage your gut border, and they're just acidic for your body, and they're just all around no good. So here's a list of things from Raw for Beauty. It's a great website if you want to check out that website as well. Some top cancer-causing foods. Well, maybe I guess I wouldn't phrase it that way. Do certain foods cause cancer? Well, they contribute. So they're contributing factors. So if all I'm eating is McDonald's or fast food or junk food on a daily basis, then am I going to have a diminished immune response? I'm not going to have the nutrients that I need to sustain an immune response. I'm not going to have the nutrients I need to live off and my cells to live off, and I'm going to have a decreased ability to fight off cancer that's growing inside of us. So remember what cancer is. It's a failure of a cell to go through apoptosis, and now it's in a replication cycle. And this happens in all of us at different times. And what keeps one person from getting cancer versus another is that their immune ability has the ability to kill off that growing mass. So the person never gets a diagnosis of cancer. So your immune ability has everything to do with your diet. Your diet is so very important. So the diet in this section is really kind of a whole food diet, learning to eat organic, learning to eat foods as close to the way God made them. Even gluten-free foods can be very bad for you because they're so highly processed. So you want to go on a whole food type diet. So that's where we start everybody, no matter what their process is. And we have several different trademark diets in our office. One is the Eden diet. The Eden diet is a plant-based diet, which you'll usually read about when you read about going on a cancer diet. You want to go on a plant-based diet, no meats. However, in reality, that's a generality. In reality, we want to look and test out that person. Some cancer patients, I want them eating meat. So I don't buy into this study said this, so everybody has to fit into that study. I buy into what's best for that patient. So we test a person out. So on a number of patients that come to us that have cancer, I want them to eat meat. Some I want on a plant-based diet. We call our plant-based diet an Eden diet because that's really how we were initially created to eat. Man was put in the garden, and there were no carnivores. Everyone and all the animals were herbivores. It was only after the fall where God gave man a covenant that he would return him to a right relationship with him via a savior, is that we started to eat meat. God was actually the first person to kill an animal when he clothed Adam and Eve with animal skins, and he taught them how to sacrifice in a covenantal relationship and to be and walk in a covenantal relationship with him in hopes for a savior. That being said, that's why we call the whole food, we have our version of a whole food diet that does include some meats, we call that a covenant diet. So a whole food, both of them are whole food. A whole food diet that is no meats, we call that an Eden diet. Then we go a step further, not so much with cancer patients, but with a lot with our brain-based patients and autoimmune patients. The step further is when we're really trying to heal the barriers, the gut barrier and the blood-brain barrier. We call that our Nehemiah diet. That's when you're eating a lot of different fats to heal those barriers. So what diet is right for me? Well, we just don't know. So you're not in my office. We don't have the ability to test you. You'll almost have to just try. It's a trial and error. The best place to start with cancer, in my opinion, is the Eden's diet, going on a plant-based diet. Very little meat. If you're going to eat meat, start with just maybe once a week or so and make it fish, or a couple times a week and make it fish. If you're losing a lot of weight, you might need a little bit more of that as well. But definitely follow the diet that's in this section of the book and use as far as the whole food part of it, meaning that you're eating organic, as close to the way as God made it, and little of processed things as possible is going to be always your best bet. So you look at, is that how God made it? That's really important. The other thing I will say in this section, make sure that when you're looking at foods to eat, you stay clear as possible of genetically modified foods, GMO foods, which you can Google search what are genetically modified foods. Go on our website. There's some information on our website. If you join our back office, Connors Clinic Online, there's a ton of information, and you actually can be on a forum where there's a ton of information on GMO foods with a lot of help from a lot of other patients as well. That is probably the most destructive thing to your gut lining that you can imagine. GMO foods literally destroy your gut lining. And they really make them so that they're resistant to corn borers. And the reason why they're resistant to that corn borer worm is they destroy the gut lining of that worm. And that's what it does. And yet we eat that corn. So make sure you're buying GMO-free things. And unfortunately, we live in a world where companies lie, and there are some whistleblower kind of websites out there. One GMO corn chip, it claimed to be GMO corn chip, was just found to use GMO foods. It's just crazy, but they're still on the market and still claiming to be GMO free. So you kind of got to belong to some whistleblower sites too to just be more careful. And I can't give you all of those online on this program now because they may have changed by the time you listen to them. But Google that and look at our website for that stuff. Your diet is so important. And the biggest thing that people talk about diet with cancer is staying off sugar. Well, and it's really not just staying off sugar, it's staying off carbohydrates that break down to sugar quite quickly. That's why you'll see in the diet in this section to stay off white potatoes and grains. That's the best thing to do, is to go grain-free. Number one is to go gluten-free, and then also to go grain-free if you can too. I know it's difficult, but you really need to follow it because it really feeds the cancer. So we'll talk about that in later sections. All right, enjoy this section, and I'll see you next time.